And bada bing, now we have a fully working little app here. I can scroll up and down through the list, right? See all the employees that were created. I have the job title and the department shown here as well from that summary property. And away we go. Alright, so that's as far as we got yesterday, so hopefully that gets you caught up. We're just going to take it a bit further now. Obviously, the idea would be to maybe add a couple of functionalities, right? Why not be able to click on an employee and go to their details? Okay, that's an obvious thing that would probably occur to you as well. The other thing is too, if we have a one-to-many relationship, okay, just as we talked about last year, foreign keys are obvious choices for filtering, right? So if you have anything that's a foreign key value, whether it's like doctors and patients and so on, you might want to select the doctor and just see the patients for that doctor and things like that. Well, here, wouldn't it be nice to be able to select the department and just see the employees for that department, right? So that is probably the next thing we'll do, is we'll add that functionality. Okay, so going back to the main page, I'm thinking about this here. If I go to the toolbox, there's lots. Oh, we have to initialize. Now I'll probably get booted off YouTube for having copyrighted music in my video. So.
You're 15 seconds.
Oh, okay. Now, if I hum it myself, I wonder if it would. Dee 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 dee.
You can just claim it as it's covered.
Okay. So we have certain things that are available here, things like this long list selector and so on. And you can play around with these controls. They're quite good, each and every one of them. The long list selector, though, basically it's kind of like a drop-down list. The only thing is it never appears as a drop-down list. When you select from it, it actually opens a blank page, a big black page, well, depending on your theme and so on, right? And you just see all the list items there. You can scroll up and down through them if you have a lot. When you select one, it just goes back with that one selected out of the list, right? So it works, but it's not really the way we're used to seeing a drop-down list displayed. So there's a whole industry, in creating third-party components for all different things. Companies other like Component One and others, right? That's their business. They build these. By the way, you'll notice in the project styles there, one of the things you can make is you can make custom components yourself, right? Nothing to it. Well, I shouldn't say that because some of the advanced ones have a lot to them. But just a simple one is pretty straightforward to build yourself, right? However, if I want to take advantage of some of the work of other people, I have two choices. I can pay for it, buy some of these suites of components, or I can get some free ones. You remember we used that Ajaxcontroltoolkit. It was free last year, and that was available. It was basically sponsored by Microsoft. There's a bunch of employees that it's open source project, right? But they made it freely available, and a whole bunch of nice little Ajax tools that you could use in Visual Studio for web forms. Well, that's the same kind of thing for Windows Phone. So to get it, what we have to do is use our good old familiar Package Manager console. It's the easiest way to get it down here. Let me just make my font bigger, right? I can just say install package WP Windows Phone Toolkit. And let's hope it works. I think it will. It usually does. Downloading, deploying. Okay, there we go. So we have this toolkit now. Now it doesn't show up in the toolbar. Remember, even the Ajax toolkit last year didn't show up in the toolbar unless we manually went and added it. But it does give us a whole bunch of these tools, and you can just Google that or Bing it, and very quickly you'll find there's actually a website where it lists all the controls and with samples on how to use them and so on and so forth. Right? There's actually quite a bit. They've been adding more and more even recently, all kinds of nifty, neat controls. Basically, to make it easy to use them though, what I want to do next is add a namespace into the XAML. Right? These are XAML custom controls. So I have to tell my page all about them. Easiest way to do that is to come over here. Right? This is the closing angle bracket of the opening phone tag, right, for the phone application page. So I'll just press enter and paste in from my little cheat file here this namespace for the Windows Phone Toolkit. Okay? And now I'll be able to just use this namespace and then get some IntelliSense and so on all the different tools that are available here. Okay. So down here where I had just this one grid, I'm going to expand on this a little bit and add something else now. Right? I don't want to replace all of it. So, yeah. Okay, so my content panel grid, I'm just going to replace with my sample code. Let me talk a bit about it. Doesn't show up particularly in the design window at the moment, but the XAML's all here. So it's still content panel, that's the name of the grid. You've seen already that the grids in XAML here work a little differently than grids in other systems. We actually give row and definitions and so on first, row and column definitions, and then as we add components or elements in XAML, we simply say what row and what column they should appear in. So we define the layout of the grid first, and then we say, okay, I'm going to make a text box. Well, where's it going to be? It's going to be in the third column, second row, right? Kind of seems a little backwards at first, but once you get used to it, it makes a lot of sense. It actually works quite well. Okay, so that's why we have our row definitions up here. The first one, okay, is auto, which meaning it will size to the content inside it. The next one, the height, is star, which means it will take up whatever room is left over, right? So that way it's somewhat dynamic in terms of sizing and so on as well. Okay, so our first stack panel here, right, goes in grid row 0, 0 being the index number of the first row. So this stack panel contains my toolkit list picker. So the list picker control gives me much more of a regular looking drop-down list control. So it's just a nice fancy control that I'm utilizing the work that other people did, customizing it and making it for me. Okay, notice a couple other things here about it. The display member path, that's basically the field I'm binding to display, right, in the drop-down list. That's what it shows. So the department name is what I want to appear, right? And I have a selection changed event handler. So basically when I pick a new name out of the list, I'm going to call an event handler in my code behind page. So that allows me to respond then if I pick a given department. Now I just want to go and show employees in that department, right? So that's pretty straightforward there. And that's all we've really added. The list box hasn't changed. It's exactly the same code that was there before. It's ready to show employees. I'm just going to filter them now by the department. Okay, so that's the change in the XAML itself. Actually, I have one more thing. Before we leave the XAML, I might as well put this in now. Remember I mentioned that there was a method shown in the code behind on how to strictly encode, create that application bar at the bottom. Well, I'm going to give you an example of how to do that in XAML instead of doing it in code. Because as I said, all these things can be done usually in one or the other or a mixture. So just under the grid then, so let me paste this in here. Oh, sorry, wrong grid. After this grid, before the end of the page. Okay, right before the ending, the closing tag of the phone application page. All right, so all this application bar is, now I'll see it in the designer down here, right? Shows up as a little bar at the bottom. The 3 dots, it's like you touch them to bring up the menu. There can be more and more stuff in the menu beneath, but at the very least, usually there are captions for whatever buttons you put on. If when I run this, you'll see the I can click